Hi Yanone. Today I'm talking about how we're going to start to work with the colour values that we've selected for our painting inspired by futurists. Now, in the beginning, I asked you to choose colours which were kind of opposite on the colour wheel so that you could create some exciting clashes of colours and interesting mixes of colours. I've pre-mixed approximately these two colours here. Could probably add some more yellow to that, but I quite like that colour with that green that's there at the moment. So I'm going to use that the way that I've mixed it for the moment, because remember we are going to be changing and processing our idea of colours. I've also extended my drawing so that I'm trying to get a feeling of movement and action in this mechanical object that we've painted. Now yours will have the black and white tonal area for the mechanical object, and then the colour will be in the background. So what I've tried to do is use repeating shapes like the Delaunay's would do, and also my understanding of tone so that I can start to change these facets in the background to make them look as though they're moving by using tonal differences and colour differences. I've also used whatever clever tricks I can to make my painting easier. So I've actually used tape to mask off a little bit of this straight-sided shape. You can also use paper, trace over the shapes like baking paper or something, trace over a curved shape and actually cut the paper and use the cut edge to act as a stencil so that when you're applying the paint, it's easier to do the edge qualities. So be clever in the way that you are using your paints. Okay, so I'm going to start. I now have these two colours. Now, I'm going to try to meet those two colours here, but I'm also going to give you some other examples of ways that you can use the colour in your painting. So I'm going to start with my red paint here, and I'm going, because I've got masked off edges, this is making it really, really easy for me. I'm able to apply the paint quite thickly, and I also might use a little tiny bit of flow medium. This is a type of medium which allows the paint to flow a little bit easier. It does make the paint appear a tiny bit lighter, but it makes blending much easier as well. So your paint becomes very liquidy. It's better than using water in a way, because with water your paint is going to be thinned down and be see-through rather than lose its consistency rather than being nice and thick. You can also apply paint with a palette knife. We have a student, Sabrin, who's been applying her paint with a palette knife, and you literally, in the same way with the brush, you use the palette knife to sort of smash, I guess, the two paint colours together. So I'm bringing these paints together on the canvas, and what I'm going to do is start to mix the two paints on my palette. So I'm going to start with the green edge, so I want a bit of green with a tiny bit of the red-brown colour in there, and I'm going to start to blend that into there. I'm going to add a bit more, and I'm going to blend that into there, and then I add a bit more, so it's almost back to the original colour, and then I'm going to leave that into there. Now I need to dry my brush. Remember, wash or dry your brush all the time, or pick up a new clean brush that you've washed in water. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush across these areas. Now I'm not going to go from one end to the other. I'll need to clean my brush between some of these, but I'm just going back and forward across the joins so that I can start to blend that colour. If you're using if you're working in a circular shape or anything else, you might want to use a dabbing type of technique to blend the colours, and that might just be the development of your style as well. And now I'm coming up into the green section. I'm just blending that back into here. So we have, hopefully, might need to just get the rest of that red off my brush now so that I can start to move back into the green colours. Okay, I think I've blended that fairly well, and certainly the paint medium helped that. And what I'm going to do is just remove the tape from here and show you how that works. Just remember, keep your fingers clean as well all the time. So now I have a blended shape. So whatever I do in between there is going to be a lot easier. Now, another way that I might approach this is I have my medium in my paint. So what I might do is I'll paint the shape right next to it. So I'm going to go from this red to white or a lighter version of it here. So I need to paint my edge qualities. Don't forget that you need to make sure that you use the side of the brush in order to paint the edges of a shape. When you get to a corner, you can use the point of the brush to get that paint blended properly. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more thickness to the paint again because it's a little bit transparent there. I want it to have a little bit more flow. You can leave your brush marks in the paint. It really is no problem to leave your brush marks in the paint. It might be a good idea to wait until one area is dry before you try and paint right next to it because it does make it a little bit more difficult. And now I'm going to wipe my brush again. I'm going to start to add white to the colour. So I'm going to take a little bit of the red. I'm going to add that to the white. And I'm going to start at this end of the painting. Now this end is very narrow. I can't use this thick brush. Now you've got a variety of brushes, and I have here two on the table. So I should be picking up another brush to paint this with, but I'm too lazy. So we're going to move on to the next colour. So I'm sort of doing bands of colour here. Now that's not going to dry in the time that I'm painting it. So, and even if it does, I can just paint over the top of it again. So I'm just putting the colour in here as kind of bands of colour. Remembering again those edge qualities, you could take this edge here, it would work quite well. And the last band of colour here. Okay, and again with a dry brush, drying off my brush, making sure that it is as clean as possible, I'm going to work down now from here. I'm going to leave a sort of impressionist mark in this particular one. I want it to have a sort of texture. I might change to a slightly smaller brush to do this top corner and brush this area back in again. Until I have successfully blended the two areas. So now I have an area which goes from the plain colour to the dark. The other way that you can extend your colours is you can add any of the primaries to your colours, and you can go from the original colours out to extensions of the colour. You can use your 3 primaries, always as you remember from year 8, to create all sorts of versions of browns, which your 2 opposite colours will tend to do anyway. So you might find that at some stage you'll mix a nice brown that will go with some of the other colours or work with them. And that's what you do. So basically you are now painting the colours into the background using the techniques that I showed you.